Welcome, everybody, as we begin year 2 of Marked Out Radio. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And we'll start off. You hit up Fred Schneider this week. He was doing an autism awareness event. This is the second time that there was kind of a quick last-minute event announced at, where was the shop?
The Record Stop, I believe it's called, in Patchogue, New York.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know why they do it this way. I guess they kind of pick beggars can't be choosers, but they do these last minute things. They did a thing with Hank Azaria a couple months ago, and now Fred Schneider of the B-52s. How was that event?
It was good. I got there. I'm always on the early side for things like this. I'd rather wait a little longer, suffer a little longer, and be in a good position than like run up at the last minute.
For so things like this, but not for anything else in life.
That's fair. But I got there, I guess it was like 3:30 for a 5 o'clock event. And of course, like as I get online, well, it was like a weird thing. There was actually a little bit of line. What's the term? Like basically like line politeness. There were people I knew from like the city that were they were there before me, but they weren't actually online. They were just sort of floating and moving around the store, I guess trying to stay cool and just sort of not wait in line. And as far as I was concerned, I didn't care because I didn't want to go first because I had, and I'll get to that in a moment, but I had a couple of different items and I didn't want to break any plastic until I knew how it was going to go. So the more guinea pigs in front of me, the better. But the people that came before, that got online right after me, assumed that they were like second and third online. So they were a little surprised when these 5 people walked outside and just got online in front of us. And if it wasn't this kind of an event, I would have cared. But like since I wanted guinea pigs and people to test the waters before I went up there, I was fine with it. But what do you think about that? Is it like, can you be online without being online?
I think for the betterment of humanity, that kind of stuff is fair. I would say at a small event like this, yes. At a larger event, I think it's not possible to sort of police or maintain that. The problem, like any of these things with events like this, is that you get abusers of the system who take advantage. If these people were genuinely there ahead of you, then they should go ahead of you, right? But I've had people even in total. I remember one time I was at the UPS store returning something for Amazon, and like we had snaked the line one direction, and the employees wanted to move us and snake the line in a different direction. And there are people who tried to jump ahead in line when the snaking occurred, and it's like, what kind of animal are you, to do that?
And it kind of sounds like us at the TNA Fan Fest in Philly.
Listen, TNA Fan Fest I was an animal because that was a zoo, right? It fit, it played. You had to be an animal there. But for something like this, I think, especially at a low key event like that, a little bit of humanity goes a long way to maintaining the social order. And in our hobby, it is nice once in a while to maintain the social order.
Yeah. So I was fine with it, although your reason for being fine with it is a lot better for humanity than me just wanting to like make sure that I could get all my stuff signed. My reason was completely selfish. But anyway, so I'm online, and of course this like talkative older couple come up behind me, and they start asking me all these questions about the B-52s, and have you seen them live before? How many times have you seen them live before? So I had to shut them up, and I looked at them and I said, listen, 3 days ago, I didn't even know the B-52s existed. I'm just...
You said that out loud at that event?
I did. Yes.
Oh, my God.
Then they're like, oh, so you're just like a vinyl collector. And I'm like, well, no. I'm sorry, I really collect everything. And at that point, luckily other people walked up that were like more their speed. Of honestly, as abnormal as they seemed, I think I may have been even more abnormal than them.
No, like, man, I'm actually just a complete lunatic.
Yeah, I mean, come on. These people all had like these like treasured belongings and stuff from their fandom, and I had like the record store bag with my purchased vinyls that will be hitting, that I have already hit eBay and will be hitting Facebook this week. But yeah, so we waited online. Greg 2600 joined me. And luckily, this guy the older gentleman enjoyed talking to Greg a lot more than me because he like knew Greg from sports card shows. So I didn't have to keep explaining how I don't know anything about what I was doing. And I was really just there because of 2 songs, a third that I found out later, the Rocco's Modern Life theme song. And,
You're like that annoying guy where like, yeah, I only know Love Shack, and then the real fans like roll their eyes, right?
oh yeah, that was literally me. But Fred rolled up, he walked in. He's apparently not the nicest on the street from what I've been reading. He's he's easier for signing for fans. He's very aware of like eBay, and he doesn't like photos. So luckily here he was doing photos. I say luckily because I could never enjoy Love Shack quite the same if I didn't have that photo. But yeah, he was nice. I had 3 records. 1 I will be keeping, 2 I will be selling. And I didn't want to break the cellophane because I could have returned them. So I was waiting to make sure he was doing multiples before I broke the seal, and he was. I think I'm the only, up until my point in line, I may be the only one that had doubles of the same record. So I think he smelled the eBay on me, but he did it. He took the photo. All was well. No heat stroke was had. It was cool, BSing with Greg. Cannot complain. Hopefully they give me a few more days notice for their next event down there, but they're always good.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would have someone like. Honestly, I was toying with the idea of going, and I just didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with it all. Honestly, it's a solid, probably 40-minute drive for me.
Yeah, for me it's 19 minutes, so it's a little different. I think you should have done both. I mean, Schneider and Azaria for the price that was paid. I mean, you really should have. But
I feel like I didn't do Azaria for a specific reason, though. I was doing something that day.
If you were, I don't think you ever told me. I remember I was like perplexed.
I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm telling myself now in retrospect because I'm going to pay for him at
I was going to say
City.
That's what you were doing. You were going to the ATM to take out the cash you need to get him to Steel City.
Brutal. So all in all, it was good.
Yeah, I mean, the graphs got like worse as it went down the stack. I think he knew the deal, but it's good. It's good. I'll be selling them.
I mean, it was advertised very much that he would sell whatever you bought there.
Yeah, I mean, that was just me overthinking. I just figured if I rip the cellophane and I have, $90 in records, get 1 signed, I mean, what the hell is the point of that? So I wanted to at least see him doing multiple before I ripped. And then the whole thing was bad. I'm 2 down from the line. I'm ripping the cellophane. Then when I'm in the room, I dropped. I'm very annoyed. I dropped my silver deco cap. It hit the ground, and of course, as you would just expect in a situation like this, it went flying somewhere. So I tried to look around while they're trying to get the next fan in, and I just gave up. But somehow, in a stroke of luck, I stole his black Sharpie. I don't even know how, but I had it in my hand. I don't recall picking it up, but I had it. I don't know how. And I stole it, I guess. So I used the cap. I wedged the black Sharpie cap on the silver deco. And I just tested it just now. It's as moist as it ever was. So apparently that's a way to save a deco if you lose the cap.
I wish Deco, totally apropos of nothing, but I wish Deco would groove the back of their pens so you could put the cap on the back, but you can't.
Yeah, exactly. The cap is just floating in space.
I love the design of Decos in so many ways, but that's such an obvious flaw. I wonder, next time at New York Comic Con, I should make a note in my notes app or something like that. I want to ask because they have Deco always has a booth at NYCC. I highly recommend, by the way. Deco is made by a company called Uchida. Uchida always has a booth at New York Comic Con. I recommend going and talking to the salespeople at Uchida. They're really nice actually, and they should go through all the different pens and stuff. But I want to ask them why it's designed like that, or pass that suggestion along because it makes no sense. And I've already multiple times where the hell is the cap? And I realized I stuck it in the little pocket in my pants, all kinds of things because there's nowhere to put it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that might be a good use for my meta glasses. I'll confront the Deco creators.
I don't know about confront, but maybe ask them what the heck. Maybe there is an actual like technical reason why they don't do it. I don't know. Maybe because the bottom of those pens is is a little bit rounded, so maybe there's some
Which I'm
technical
not gonna
reason.
lie, I like the rounded. Like I like the design. It's very sleek, but it could use some practicality as far as having somewhere to put the cap.
There you go. The kinds of things that matter when you're doing graphing in the wild, really. Well, because like for example, when I was graphing at that's that location that we didn't talk about with Marissa Tomei and Andrew the hell was his name?
Garfield.
Thank you. I was doing those with the Deco Staten Island Blue, and that cap, I had it in my palm at one point. I was like, "Where's the cap?" Because you don't want to wreck your stuff with this, with the cap missing. So, it is stressful. It's a little bit stressful on the street to graph with the Deco because of that. So, note to Deco Uchida. I mean, they know by now we are their clients. We are their market, not these artists. It's us, really. So, modify your designs if you can. Anyway, we got some reports, a couple reports from the same kind of group of guys who went out together. They went to see Glengarry Glenross on Broadway, or at least I guess they went to see the show because they had the poster and the playbill. I really wanted to see Glengarry Glenross on Broadway. I loved the movie. That movie is one of my favorites of all time. It made me a fan of Jack Lemmon. Really sealed up my fandom of Alec Baldwin. I love that movie. Have you seen it?
I have. It's a good movie.
I love it.
I saw it once. I'm not gonna go act like it's some all-time favorite of mine, but it was a very good movie.
But there was like a special engagement on Broadway with a ridiculous cast, and it was like Bill Burr and Michael McKean and I'm blanking on the big names.
Kieran Culkin
and one more.
Bob Odenkirk,
Kieran Culkin, and so these are pretty big names for Broadway. Kieran Culkin especially is on fire right now for Succession. And so this was like it was a big to do. I don't know. I was talking with people. I wanted to go see the show, and the tickets are really expensive, and so I never did. And blah blah blah. Here we are. Anyway, Vinny and Brett both hit Glengarry Glenross. It kind of became a nightly tradition that if you had the poster and playbill and stood outside, the main cast would come out and sign for everyone there, with the caveat that they wouldn't take photos. What's your thought on that?
I mean, I've seen that back in my Broadway days. That was like a common occurrence where you'd have the people that wouldn't take the pose photos. And just to sort of throw it back to what we talked about last week, that's sort of the example I was making. Like, they're working the rail, they're signing. Vinny took some selfies, Brett got some selfies. There was no clear consent there, but to me, that sort of lack of consent selfieing is better and a little less egregious than bum rushing while walking away. That's a little crazier. So I think that's I've been in those situations before. I guess beggars can't be choosers. They could do nothing at all, like a Denzel who seldom does anything. But I mean, it kind of stinks. I
heard Denzel on his Othello run not only did nothing but was abjectly hostile during that whole run.
Yeah, I think he's talking about being done with acting, and I think he's definitely done with the fan side of acting. He's not in any sort of a mood lately. His boys, going back to my report from last summer, his boys definitely got the kindness from their mother, I'm assuming, or old Denzel, because this new Denzel is just crotchety. I mean, he's one. If you try to bum rush him, you're probably fighting. Like that's not. You're not gonna Cameron him. He's surly at this point.
Very much so. Very much so. I've seen that. But yeah, they ended up. I believe Brett was able to score a photo with Bill Burr, an actual looking shot that Bill Burr consented to. And then they lucked out. Bob Odenkirk lagged behind the rest of the cast a little bit, and so the crowd kind of dispersed, and they ended up getting some really nice posed shots with Bob Odenkirk.
Hold on. I think Bob Odenkirk was after the matinee, because actually no, I take that back. That was all like daylight. Yeah, I think he did lag behind. I thought it was dark in the Bill Burr photo, but no, the lighting looks around the same. But either way, I mean, Bob Odenkirk, I think you could argue is the most established name on that cast, even though, I mean, Culkin's got the Oscar now. But that's a tremendous get.
I think overall, I mean, Bill Burr is huge now. I mean, he's so ubiquitous. He's always the guest on these podcasts. He had that show on Netflix, F is for Family. Did you ever see F is for Family on Netflix?
I have not.
I highly recommend it. It's excellent. It's his tribute to his father. And it's really like, upon first glance, it's like a simple, like, idiotic cartoon or whatever, but it's not. It gets very, very good. It's really funny, and kind of, it's very much in like in the vein of like a King of the Hill type of cartoon, where it's saying a lot more than it appears to be saying. I really liked it. Anyway, Bill Burr's huge. And I mean, Kieran Culkin with the
Oscar?
awards. Yeah, with the awards. Sorry, my cat jumped on the
I thought you were having a stroke. Okay.
No, the cat just jumped on the keyboard. She went to the vet today, and there's a little bit of medical stuff going on, and now she wants attention. But with Culkin now, I mean, Culkin's he's just red hot. He was red hot enough that they showed him when he was on Raw right after the awards show, right? They showed him on Raw. Anyway, he's huge. And Michael McKean has been in so many things. I mean, Jesus Christ, so many things. I really regret not going to see that show, but the tickets were like $180 at minimum.
This is one of those old school Broadway, and you know, we're not doing a Broadway segment here, but this is one of those like casts from like 10 years ago when I would get like a ton of people like in the same show. This was a stacked cast, and like you said about Kieran Culkin, just a little anecdote from my past. I was doing TV Week one year, and I remember people saw someone random, and this is what happens when you try to act normal. I was out there with Kev Cush and a bunch of other guys, and they were running by Central Park, chasing after someone that they saw. And I didn't know who it was. I just figured, screw it, I'm not going to run after this random person. And it was Kieran Culkin. And at the time, it was just Mac's little brother. I thought, oh, well, whatever. And now look at him. And I kick myself for that. I absolutely should have ran with the pack and gotten the selfie.
I've heard, though, that Kieran is quite tough, actually.
I think back then, though, he really wasn't. Now, I mean, God knows. Now I probably got to hope for a con run.
Yeah, I don't know. But
or appeal to him with like wrestling autographs or something. I'll throw some Kelly Madnate by tens his way if he'll stop.
That might be a funny bit, because apparently the boys talked to him about wrestling a little bit to get him to stop and slow down, and he engaged. So, which is kind of funny because he's a wrestling lunatic.
Yeah.
It's actually funny when you encounter people who are wrestling lunatics. Like, would you ever thought? Actually, we haven't told this, I don't think. Would you have ever thought that Tom Kenny would be a wrestling lunatic?
And not just any wrestling, but like Mexican, like original, like lucha libre. Like, no.
Yeah, he's a hardcore lucha maniac.
I would not have thought that for a moment. I never would have thought we'd have like a 15-minute conversation about wrestling. But listen, the wrestling fans are a fierce bunch. They're everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny. It really is. When you encounter them, it's like a kinship that they share with each other. Anyway, that was Glengarry Glenross with those guys. We also got a report from Zach Linder and old school WWF Mike. They both hit up the Garden State Comic Fest. Have you ever hit that show? I don't think I ever have.
Absolutely not. And that sounded so like arrogant. Absolutely. Like there's no reason why I wouldn't, but I just never did.
it's always a smaller show. I mean, you know, usually faced with those kind of shows, you always worry whether people are going to show up. So, you know, Zach mentioned in his report that he brought stuff to drop off at JSA, and then JSA no showed the show, and that is like such a kick in the nuts when that happens. You know,
What was the name of that other company? I
He
forget
said
what
it's
it
called
was now.
Primo Autographs, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm up on these things, and I still have never heard of them.
Zach, I think you
So
made a mistake, man. The Primo autograph sticker is going to be the new rage. Just like, actually, I'm not even going to go there. I was going to tie it in with another autograph sticker out there.
yeah,
But
don't.
yeah, I'm not.
Don't really go in there. But anyway, Zach hit up Kevin Clash and Steve Whitmire. He observed Kevin Clash's strangeness. Kevin Clash is a weird dude, you know.
Kevin Clash can't spell Kevin.
I wonder. I mean, his spelling is so poor that I wonder if there's some kind of like disability or dyslexia or something, because
I
he
probably
couldn't
shouldn't be
spell.
making fun of him.
No, he couldn't spell mama, you know.
Yeah.
And other very simple words he couldn't spell. But you know, he was a little bit of a strange dude as well. You know, not the most socially adept, which Zach noticed. But he got graphs from Kevin Clash and Steve Whitmire on Sesame Street stuff. Those guys are $70 a pop now. What did we pay Kevin? I feel like I didn't pay Kevin Clash more than $40.
I think it was, I don't know. I think it was
I
more
want to
than
say 40. I don't think it was. I don't.
I got
really
multiple, and I remember feeling not so great about it. I think 40, I would have been thinking I should have had a third. I would say 50 if I was just going to guess.
It was certainly not 70.
Yeah, I'll agree there. The price went up.
I got 3 from Kevin Clash. I don't know, for some reason I was thinking 40, but it could have been 50. It's certainly not 70. It's gone up. You know, Steve Whitmire. Do you remember when Steve Whitmire was fired from Sesame Street? There was a whole big to-do about it.
No, what the hell's going on? How many perverts and degenerates did they have on that?
No. He wasn't fired I don't think for any reason. Like Kevin Clash was fired for that. Right?
Yeah.
Steve Whitmire wasn't. It was fired because of like a contract dispute or something like that with the Jim Henson Company.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact. This was
no,
years ago.
I mean, obviously, I don't remember. I thought he was a pervert. So
no, I mean, look, who knows what people do, but in any case, he said they were very nice. The stuff looked great, as Zach stuff always looks great. Zach also got James Pax, and there was a little bit of an interesting thing because he has his Big Trouble in Little China project. He used James Pax to arrange a private signing with Carter Wong, also from Big Trouble in Little China, to bring stuff to China to get signed because Carter Wong lives in China. Would you do that? Would you give a pre-signed item to a guest at a show so they can get it signed in another country for you?
I mean, I've realized this long ago that I have absolutely zero testicular fortitude when it comes to anything like that. I would be afraid of losing a napkin. So, I mean, I'm not the one to ask. I would absolutely be paranoid of doing that. I'm paranoid sending this stuff off to big companies because I figure a lot can happen from point A to point B. So I absolutely would not have the nerve to do that. But I mean, Zach's a bigger man than I for doing that. That's a power move.
You know, I gotta say, and this is something that maybe I'm gonna catch heat for this. I don't know. I sent a very expensive WrestleMania 1 poster off to Twin Cities to get done by Mr. T, right?
I don't think you ever actually talked about how that came back, by the way.
It hasn't come back. That's the issue.
Ooh.
And so it's a funny thing. So Twin Cities, now I've used Twin Cities comics a bunch of times. The owner, Tori, is usually really responsive to emails. And so the other day, it's funny because I noticed that they're advertising a signing with Sam Neill through Celebrity Authentics. Now, I have trusted Twin Cities so many times in the past, and I like them, that I would, even though Celebrity Authentics is running the Sam Neill signing, I would send it through Twin Cities anyway, because I would prefer they handle my stuff. That's how much I trust them. From having used them a bunch of times. Yeah, a little bit of loyalty. Okay. And so anyway, so I noticed that they announced that the Sam Neill items were due by February. Now that's clearly not correct because it's now July. And so I emailed and saying, when are these Sam Neill autographs? When are the items actually due? So Celebrity Authentic says July 31st. I don't think they'll have it done early August. But as you know, we're getting stuff done by the Jurassic Park kids in Steel City. So I said, will you need them by August? And I emailed this whole thing to the guy who owns Twin Cities. And then I said, and by the way, when is the stuff from Dallas Fan Expo coming back? I haven't heard anything about Mr. T. And he pretty rudely, I think, replied. Now this is I'm not claiming to be a high roller, but I'm a multi-time customer. I've spent thousands with them. Okay. And he replied basically saying, I don't have a date for Sam Neill, so I have no idea if you'll be able to do what you want to do. And please check the newsletter that we send out for return dates for Fan Expo Dallas. Or I thought it was a pretty short, abrupt comment, but listen, I mean, maybe, tone is always not always conveyed through email. So I say, let me go back to I subscribe to their stupid email newsletter. Let me go back and see what it says about Dallas Fan Expo. And lo and behold, the last newsletter they sent out was like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. It was over 2 weeks ago. And it said something to the effect of all Dallas Fan Expo stuff will be shipping by the end of this week, next week at the latest. So now I'm looking and I said, it's where we've now passed that timeline. I still have not heard anything. And the way he responded to me to go back and look at this newsletter is not helpful at all, because the dates for this newsletter have passed. So now I'm a little bit tempted to reply with a different tone. And it's a shame, because I hate that feeling, is when you I would never respond to someone that way. When someone asks a question in an email, I give too much detail. I want to make sure that I am being a good steward of a customer's dollars. I believe in that very strongly. If someone has given me their money and trusted in me to do something and provide a service or a good with that money, that I'm not going to abuse that or take advantage of that. And I really feel kind of bad about how I was treated by them. And now I'm not sure how I'm gonna proceed. Is it way overdue? No, it's not, especially for a signing of that size. And am I that concerned? I'm not that concerned, but I'm a little bit perturbed by that email. Am I crazy here?
No, because when you announce something in a newsletter that has now passed and you still didn't ship it out, like, you should assume the person already read the newsletter. Not that you had, but like, assume they had, because it's already over the date. So you'd say, oh yeah, we had a little bit of a delay. Sorry about that. But we're getting them out as quick as we can. Something like that literally you could have not even touched item one. You could be sitting on your couch playing the Switch, doing nothing you're supposed to be doing, and making a little comment like that just on a PR level is the right way of handling things. It makes the person sound like they're not bothering you. Their question is valid. Like, you don't say, hey, go check that newsletter that I've already been wrong about. And, it makes no sense. It's a lousy way of handling things. I don't know why they're so slow in returning these back when people have been posting Mr. T's for weeks. That's one of those things.
Yeah, they went through official picks, and I didn't, because of the way the pricing structure worked, and the way one of the, I forget which one, but there was like something with authentication, and I did not want whatever it was. There was a reason why I went through Twin Cities. Also, I trust Twin Cities. And
but I mean, I'm sure official picks had more, if not more, than the same amount of items. How come they're able to get these out quickly and Twin Cities is whatever? Neither here nor there. I think your reaction's fair. I think you're actually being generous in that you haven't responded yet with a different tone, because it's obnoxious.
It's very hard, because when you have you have a working relationship with people, and now I'm like, you know what? I'm a little bit annoyed. I am with the tone of the email. I don't know how we got into this in the middle of poor Zach's report about sending things away, but no, it's like, I typically have a much stronger stomach than you do for sending expensive items away. And I've done it to places where I believe my trust wasn't going to be violated, and I feel like it's been violated a little bit. They're a little bit capricious, a little bit cavalier with my stuff, and what I think what this is coming down to. Maybe this is a topic for a future show. There was another private signing company that I used before, that I used a bunch of times until there was they who provided outstanding customer service, well beyond normal. And then one time I got a little bit where I thought that they did not do a great job. Were very avoidant and rude. And I was like, you know what? How is it possible that over time, eventually all of these companies trend toward poor customer service? I hate it. And so now I was trusting another company like Twin Cities, and now would I trust them again in the future? I'm not sure. Now I have to evaluate now if I respond what their next reply is going to be.
Yeah. I mean, then it's one of those things where you start looking at, like, is it really a decrease in efficiency and quality, or is it just that you're going to have some negative interaction and experience with a company that does the kind of volume they do, that you can't possibly, maybe we're able to be these beacons of professionalism. I'm joking here. I think we're pretty professional, but I wouldn't say a beacon. But maybe it's easier for us since we don't have the volume these companies have. If you had 50 emails a day like that, maybe you wouldn't be the same energetic answer machine that you are now. But no, I mean, as a customer, I feel the same way you feel.
I mean, it wasn't like he answered me in 5 minutes. He took over 24 hours to respond. It was not a fast response. That's the part that it wasn't like he dashed off a response right away. I'm unhappy.
I don't blame you.
In any case, back to Zach's report and Mike's report. So Zach got those three people. Mike got Maitland Ward from Boy Meets World, and I know her from White Chicks, and apparently she has transitioned to a career in adult films. I mean, she should transition into a career doing more cons. I think she's a great name, and she doesn't really do many shows that I've seen. If she were at like a Chiller, I would probably get her.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to Garden State Comic Fest. In any case, he also got Ann Dudek, another really good name, I think. And we talked about this before the show, and it appears to me, based on her profile on RosterCon, that Ann Dudek has only done one other con, another like small rinky-dink con like this. What do you think about these kind of? I mean, Ann Dudek is not going to be a headliner. She's not going to set the world on fire. Neither is Maitland Ward. But what do you think about these people kind of only getting booked on these rinky-dink shows? Do you think that their agents are failing them, or what's going on here? I'm sure Ann Dudek or Maitland Ward can get booked for Chiller.
Well, from what I've heard with Chiller, it is sometimes a little more complicated to get Kevin to approve the guests that the agents will sort of bring across his desk. So I think it's these names, you're talking House, you're talking Covert Affairs for Ann Dudek, you're talking Boy Meets World, White Chicks, and like adult films for Maitland. That's not necessarily Kevin's wheelhouse. Kevin wants like the Ghost of Red Fox. If he was a little less melanined. I've heard I shouldn't even be saying this, but I've heard some things that it's a little tricky to get, like, non-white guests approved. Actually, I think you might have to edit this one out, Sean. But yeah, all I could think is perhaps Dudek is located in the Northeast, and this is all they can really do within a drive, and they're not trying to go far. I'm not sure.
There was this weird con she did in Massachusetts, like the Bricksboro. I never heard of it. This little tiny show, and then this one, I don't know. I think she could do. Dudek could do a little better than this. There's plenty, but even besides Chiller, there's other things. The altered reality shows she can do. I don't know. I just thought it was a little bit strange. But another piece of news, and it's related, is that Sergeant Slaughter was there again, charging an absolute fortune and not having any customers. what do you make of like a Sergeant Slaughter situation where he continues to go to these cons and not make any money?
I mean, I think it's a nice way to sort of retire publicly. He still can, see his fans from a distance while sitting at a table relaxing. But I mean, I don't understand. Like, yeah, with the premium pricing, maybe you're getting twice the amount for one item that you would get for, it regularly. But I mean, he's not doing enough volume where he's making up the difference. Like, he's the small amount of sales he's making, he would have to make more cash if he actually had more competitive pricing. But I guess it's some weird hang up with preserving the secondary value and not being taken advantage of. I don't know if the agent's stockpiling stuff that he thinks when Sarge keels over and dies that he's going to be able to dominate on secondary the way we've speculated, that like the Beach Shop will with Hogan and maybe Fitterman with Flair. But I mean, I don't imagine he doesn't even have an online place to sell. So it can't be that. So I don't know what it is. I think it's just that they think they're smarter than they are, and they don't realize, or they're too oblivious to realize that they're costing themselves money.
After you go to a bunch of shows where you're not making anything, I mean, they got to be losing money on these shows, unless Sarge is negotiating that he doesn't have to pay for his booth, which might be the case for a name like Sarge. He might be able to set up his booth for free. I don't understand what his agent's end game is here. They're not bringing hardly any revenue. I mean, Sarge was at New York Comic Con where everyone does business, and he was doing no business. At a show like this, realistically, is he grossing $200 for the day? Like, what is that's nothing. There's no money.
I mean, I don't know. You have a lot of hours there. Like, Mike Simon was definitely not standing there staring at Sarge. He was there probably for all of 15 minutes in his space. If Sarge is doing $100, $120 per sale with these prices, is it possible he's making 5 sales over the day? Could he be maybe he's making $500-$600 for the day and they're happy with that? I don't know.
So what's his agent getting? What's the guy sitting next to him getting for that?
Well, that's the deal.
$50? $50? Yeah. You sit all day long for $50?
If it's the standard math, yeah.
Plus, I mean, they sell figures and stuff. They got a box and unbox and all this stuff. I think it's preposterous. It's really ill. I think it's like a derangement where someone, I deserve XYZ. You see my attempt at doing Sarge's voice there. I deserve XYZ, and he's not making any money from this. None.
Well, first of all,
fascinating.
As good of a Sarge impression as that was, he would have said that much lower, so only his agent heard it, and then he would let his agent say that. So he would be still Mr. Americana, and everyone would love him, while the agent's the bad guy. But no, I digress. I don't get it. I know with premium pricing, that was always the thought. If people stop paying it, the prices will change. And with some of the talents, they're able to charge that. Kevin Nash does well with premium pricing. There's names that still do okay. Sarge isn't one of them.
Look at Scott Steiner sitting on his hands.
Yeah.
Sarge sitting on his hands. It's stupid.
The pricing is not changing. So it really makes you wonder, like, are they just more stubborn than they are intelligent? Are they doing enough sales that we don't realize? Maybe when they were charging less, maybe their pocket at the end of the day is about the same weight and they just move the pen less and they're okay with that. And we're just overestimating what these guys are willing to do, agent and talent, for a day's work as far as what they take home. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't get it. If I was Sarge and Sarge's agent, I would slice my pricing and see what I could do. Try to get some traction going again. But, what do I know?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I don't know. So that's it for our reports. We do have a clarification on a topic from last week. It makes much more sense now. So we talked about Logan Paul and his autograph on what he said was a fake card. And I am so detached from the card world. I have no idea. But Marcus on the group, he clarified that I guess the card that the fan had brought in was the image that was going to be placed on a print to order card. I didn't even know print to order was a thing for cards. That kind of, to me, defeats the whole purpose of a card. You order a card, they make it to order, and then so you don't pull out of a pack, or I don't know. This is how shows you how disconnected I am from it. But I guess the image was from a print to order card that was supposed to be Logan Paul's first ever WWE card, and that the ordering window just closed, and those cards haven't even been printed professionally yet. And so the fan could not have possibly had a real one, which I think is interesting. So it seems like, from what Marcus, the way he explained, that's why Logan knew that it was not real, because it hasn't been released. And also, he's in tune with the fact that it's his first card for WWE. And so it was obvious that the fan had a fake. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree with you. I don't really understand this whole. I mean, first of all, thanks to Marcus for clarifying, because I'm not. That's what I said last week. I was a big card collector as a kid, but this game of cards doesn't even resemble what I did. Like, made to order cards to me defeats the purpose, because you're talking the coolest card is literally scarcity and demand would be like neck and neck, because as many people that wanted it would buy it. And then, of course, scarcity after the fact could be a thing, because more people find out about it later. But I don't know. That's kind of weird to me. Not that I want another thing to spend money on, but like hearing things like that, I don't know. It's not the card game I remember. But yeah, I guess he pulled it on the wrong guy. Like, if there was a made to order card of Tito Santana, you might be able to pull a fast one and get it signed. But I mean, Logan Paul's, he's dialed into this stuff. He is a collector himself of his own stuff. He did a panel at the Fanatics Fest, and someone asked him, like, one of the questions was, like, how much of his own stuff does he sort of save? His gear, all that. And he's like, I save everything. He's like, everything I've ever worn or used or anything, he's like, I have. And he's hoarding it for, a rainy day. So he is very aware of all his collectibles. But yeah, that's kind of weird, the whole made-to-order thing.
Yeah, so there you go. Thanks, Marcus, for explaining that. There's a couple other interesting pieces of news. They're doing two reunions, kind of similar style, although the Scary Movie so there's a Scary Movie reunion in New York City on August 1st. Details are on the Facebook group. Dave Sheridan, John Abrahams, Lachlan Monroe, and then Felissa Rose, who's not in Scary Movie at all, is going to be there as well. And it's did you see how the ticketing works? It's a little bit strange.
I didn't look. I'm not a Scary Movie guy, so I really was just, and it's a weekend that we're busy. But how does it work?
So you got to pay $15 to reserve a spot, and then you have to buy the autographs are $40, the photo ops are $40, and the combos are $60 per person. So the $15 is sort of an entry fee, but they don't phrase it that way. You kind of reserve a time to go in. There's also a time where they say you can do a group photo op that is not priced out. They claim to sell VIPs, 70 VIPs. Those are not clearly available to buy, at least from what I saw. It's kind of hard to. It seems like it seems like a store that's running this. It is a store that's running it, and their ticketing is overly confusing. They're going to have a nightmare day of, with people not knowing what the hell they're supposed to be doing. That's the vibe that I get. It's confusing. But if you want to get a group op with some of these people from Scary Movie, there you go. You can do that. I'm curious how this works out. But yeah, anything that weekend for us is going to be impossible given what we have to do. You showed me this, that there's the kind of an office reunion happening as well.
Yeah, it's that weekend you just called impossible for good reason. They're doing a office reunion at the Meadowlands at the Secaucus, that convention center in Secaucus. I'm blanking on the exact name of it, but it's the office reunion, and they have a main cast photo op that includes, you have Rainn Wilson, you have, I'm going to be mixing real names and fake names. You have Brian Baumgartner, the fat guy that makes chili. You have Creed. You have Stanley. You have Toby, you have Mrs. Schrute, you have the redheaded woman. What was her name? I'm nailed. Anyway, it's got like 8-9 people, and it's a really, really cool reunion. Honestly, it's probably one of the better ones I've seen because a lot of these group ops don't have rain. So I'm tempted. It's Saturday, Sunday. I would like to not have to go on Sunday since we were in there Friday, Saturday for our WrestleCon stuff. But I mean, we're going to be so busy on Saturday, unless this op is like 6 p.m. I really can't imagine I can do it. So I might have to do Sunday or not at all. We will see. But this is a hell of a lineup. I do know, though, that a lot of these guys will cancel. This is like a thing they do. So if all of a sudden 2 or 3 of these guys cancel, that might change my desire to go since Rain is at Rhode Island. But we will see.
And honestly, Rain is much more palatable me in that context than paying $100 for him at Rhode Island, if I'm being honest.
So I mean, I think you might have. Maybe you should join me on Sunday.
I mean, I think I'll be wiped after Friday, Saturday, so that'll be a game day decision. I don't think it's selling out. So, I think we're
definitely
good.
not. No, definitely not. But I mean, I think if you ever want to get the office people, unless you think Carell or Krasinski are going to go on a run, I mean, I wouldn't really count on it. At least not with Carell. So I mean, this is probably as good of a group op as you're ever getting. So.
Yeah, so in other news, there are a couple of high-profile deaths this week. One of them was Michael Madsen. He died during a con run. So we didn't get him. We didn't go to Chiller and get him this year. And so he was actually scheduled for a con this weekend, I believe. It's either this week or next weekend. But he is now dead. Apparently, for those who saw him at Chiller, this is not a total surprise or even a little bit of a surprise. He had severe problems with addiction. Obviously, you wish for people to get out of the grip of addiction, but it's very hard to do so. So, interestingly, I haven't seen anything about people selling Michael Madsen stuff. I'm not sure he did any bulk. I haven't seen any fighting about Michael Madsen autographs. Have you?
No. I mean, I assume that means Michael Madsen's spirit must be very happy and at peace since, no one's selling his autograph prematurely. I'm not happy about this. I'm not. I want to reiterate that I was absolutely honored to be a part of the wedding, and I wouldn't have missed that very special day for a convention ever. Just to throw that out there.
That to me, that lie sounded convincing. I just want you to know.
But listen, you just can't beat the Reaper sometimes, and I mean, here he is. He's dead. I didn't get him. I'll never get him. It's extremely unfortunate. I mean, let the record state, I'm not the biggest fan of this guy. I'm really not. But I mean, in that Tarantino universe, he's sort of like Rob Schneider. He's like Rob Schneider with a gun, basically, for Tarantino. Like, it's like a Sandler comparison. Like he's big in that universe. He's been in a lot of great movies. He's dead. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that. So I mean, it's just unfortunate. I'm not happy. I probably should have done a little something with that second day barbecue. I probably could have hit Chiller and come in late for the barbecue. That was probably the move. But I mean, I honestly thought Michael Madsen might die overnight Saturday into Sunday. So you pull up to Chiller to find them wheeling his body down the hallway. That little funny scenario that we've joked about for years. Yeah, I didn't do it. I should have done it. He's dead. And that sucks.
In other news, it's again related to Chiller. We talked about the Chill Out con being announced as running directly opposite Chiller. So they've announced their first 2 headliners. They've announced Brad Garrett from Everybody Loves Raymond and Bill Shatner from, obviously, Star Trek. They have also announced their location, which is directly across the street from the Chiller Theater Hotel. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, listen, I'm going to save some of what I'm saying because this ties into our like main topic of the show. I like it. Like I love this kind of stuff. Like, going to the hotel directly across the street. I mean, Tom is like at this point just like plopped his nutsack right on their head. Like that makes me laugh because I mean, you have this situation here where he's brought people to this show for years and years and years, and you always see the people commenting about like, where's big event? Who's big event bringing? He brings big names. That's what he does. And to tell him we don't want you at this show, you know, two sides to every story. I was not privy to these discussions. Chiller, I don't know why Chiller would say that exactly. I'm not going to act like I know a full story when I haven't lived it. But I mean, I think it's a short-sighted decision, and I think it's just hilarious now that Tom is going to bring some firepower right across the street. And we'll get into basically what this can mean for the territory, what this can mean for the competition in a bit. But I like it. How do you feel?
I feel like there's competition, and then there's like running head to head, in a destructive way. And I'm not sure how this is going to shake out yet. You know, on one hand, I do believe fundamentally in the idea that a rising tide lifts all boats. And I also do not believe in exclusivity of a territory or any of those other concepts like that. So that's all fair game. I'm fine with it. But I also know that running a new con opposite Chiller that does have an established base is going to be a challenge. And, simply putting Shatner in a room doesn't necessarily solve that challenge. Shatner's he's a guaranteed established draw, no question about it. But, there's other interesting things. Like me as a fan, the fact that they're doing by the way, we didn't put this on the notes. The fact that they're doing $10 tickets to get in is magnificent. That's wonderful. Obviously, they're doing that to, get people in the door as a new show. That's wonderful. But when Chiller's charging, 35 or whatever they're charging now, obviously there's the competition is steep. I understand why it's happening this way. I do. And there's a lot of me that says it's about time that this has happened this way. You can't just let someone, if you believe you can do something better than someone, put up or shut up. I get it. I'm a little bit more cautious than you are on this, especially with either belief in the drawing power of the names we think are getting booked on this show. You are much more convinced of their drawing power than I am, but I do think that I'm gonna go. I'm interested in it. And look, Chiller has just fired back. They've announced one of their headliners is Randy Quaid. Now Randy Quaid is not. I mean, it's kind of in a way. Maybe, and what do you think about this? Maybe Chiller announcing Randy Quaid as a headliner kind of validates Tom, because Randy Quaid in 2025 is not the established headliner that Randy Quaid in 2019 might have been.
Yeah. I think it just shows Chiller sort of leaning on the idea, which again just ties into our main topic, but they lean on the idea that they sort of run in a universe all their own, and the people that frequent their shows are not really going to these other places. So for them, Randy Quaid is still fresh. For the Chiller crowd, that brand new BlackBerry is cutting edge because came out in 2020. Like, that's what I think they lean on, that they don't have to be sort of state of the art. They can kind of just play play the hits that people want. And if they're a few years late to the party, it doesn't matter. Objectively speaking, I think Randy Quaid is fine. He's solid. His pricing, much like Sergeant Slaughter, I think his pricing sort of takes him out of some conversations because he's high, and he's quite high on different items. And like, I have things I would have gotten signed and I didn't, and I still probably won't. But for me, I mean, like forget picking and choosing. Forget.
All I'm thinking about when you talk about when you talk about Randy Quaid, right? I remember we were at Monster Mania on a Saturday, where there were stretches of that Saturday where on a Saturday at Monster Mania, which is packed, you can barely breathe in those rooms. It's so packed, and there were times when Randy Quaid was sitting on his hands. Yeah, that's what has to be concerned.
He was sitting on his gloved hands. Yeah, but I mean, people are getting so fired up, and we'll talk about that in a few. To me, I mean, I probably have a greater chance of attending Chiller now because of Tom's show than if I was just sitting home saying, am I going to go to New Jersey for Chiller? I'm not going to be a chill out or chiller for the entire day. So, I mean, the fact that they're across the street, that makes it's easier to get me in the door of each show because I have another show to fall back on. So to me, it's a blessing. I wish every convention had another convention across the street because you get more people, you spend more money. It's a beautiful thing. But we will touch on that in a bit.
Speaking of more money, Monster Mania added David Arquette, Luis Guzman, and Freddie Rodriguez. They're also teasing a big name for early next week. That supposedly VIP ticket holders are going to want to save their line skips for. Get ready. What do you think of this? Because we were as of last show, we were both no's for Monster Mania. Does this change your view at all?
I'm in. I've wanted Luis Guzman for a little while, and then with Luis Guzman being there, that like Sean Ashmore was a want. There were a couple of like small end ones. So now I can get Ashmore. I'm in. And I'll look up some of the other people on this lineup. I'll decide if I'm doing anything with this with the Friday the 13th part 3, which I'm probably not, but we'll see. How about you? How do you feel?
I mean, I'm not going to say seals the deal, but it's certainly looking better now than it did last week. You know, I mean, I will say people were kind of ripping on them pretty. Did you see? Were we talking about this? That people were ripping on them pretty hard for not having a headliner for this show?
Well, I mean, if it's in the Monster Mania fans group, which is pretty poignant for later on, I wouldn't know because I'm banned from that group.
I forget why that happened. Do you even know?
I forget why that happened too. I don't know. I've reached out to people to try to see why the hell I'm banned, and like they can't figure out why I'm banned. And to me, if you can't figure out why I'm banned, I should be unbanned. I mean, why am I banned? But
in any case,
yeah,
of course,
I don't care that much.
We were blabbing last week that Steel City Con finished its lineup, and as soon as we blabbed that they did, they went ahead and added, WWE superstar Kane. It's interesting. I never got Kane, but I probably never will at this point because he wears like a weird mask to shows that just doesn't fit on his head, and it just I'm not paying for that. So I don't know. What you don't need Kane, right?
I mean, I probably need Kane on like 20 things if I was gonna really like go into the piles of what I have. I have figures, I have posters, but I'm pretty sure Kane at this point is with Tony Hunter. And if he's not with Tony Hunter, he's sort of playing from the same playbook. So I'll probably do nothing. Because if I get one Kane item done, why not 3? And then all of a sudden I'm spending $250 on Kane. And I'd like to not do that. I need these Jurassic Park kids, Smart, and maybe a couple others. If I could spend like $500 or less at this show. The fact that that's a low number is crazy. But if I could keep it around there, I'd be happy.
Speaking of Steel City, we somehow managed to go viral again on their fan group. But this keeps happening. And it's like I've never posted in this group. I only posted in response to this. And this keeps happening to us.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines was someone, it was the same guy from last time that like shared the thing. And someone commented, "No one cares about your shitty podcast," to the guy that posted it. And I responded with, "It's my shitty podcast, and I didn't post this."
It was really funny. I really cracked up at the whole thing. Yeah, I did notice that a few people defaulted. They defaulted to a posture of being insulting, and then when you said that, the guy's like, "Well, to be fair, I didn't even listen to it." And so people, it's weird. It's a very funny thing how people's posture to default is one of hostility, and that's a very interesting thing to me because I don't think that way. I don't think as a default. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt by default, but there are people who they're not like that. So, well, I did crack up at that.
It's all loyalty, man. It's all the loyalty. But interestingly enough, the official Steel City page was like liking comments that we made and that people made in defense of us. So the Steel City like organization seems aware that like we are not plugging our podcast by like antagonizing the loyalists. That somehow that one of our listeners is simply sharing our episode like synopsis. So
yeah, I
at
mean,
least
at the end of the day, I am happy that we get to go to a show that has Amy Smart, because no one else booked Amy Smart. So thank you, Steel City, for doing that. And also the Jurassic Park kids. I'm thrilled that I get to go to a show that has them. I just wish there were other ways I could spend my money at that show. And for me, that the guest lineup is just not for me what I was hoping for. I was as I've stated for months now, what I was hoping for was a Jurassic Park reunion. Was that a reasonable hope? Probably not. But hey, a man can dream, and that's what I was going for. And did it work out? It didn't. Will I be attending? Yes. Do I hate Steel City? No. Do I think people who get all bent out of shape when a con gets criticized are idiots? Yes. That's all I have to say about that.
maybe they'll add Kevin Spacey in the 11th hour, like last time. I'm not holding my breath, but that would be nice.
It
or
would.
some other disgraced like potential sex offender that I need to meet.
What else? We have con news. Rhode Island, they added Tim Matheson. Tim Matheson brought in always by our good friend Bob. So do you need Tim Matheson?
It's one of those names where I've probably watched nothing he's done, but I'm sure there's something he's done that I may watch in 30 years if there's another pandemic. So, I mean, I might get Tim Matheson, but
there you go.
Need is a strong word.
It certainly is. To add on to my ongoing woes, Premier Collectibles has added The Offspring and metal band Exodus to their list of bands that they've now done signings with. And each one I see each time, because by now, see, the problem is this: I click on all their ads now because I want to see what's going on with them. And so now when you click on these ads, you're fed more ads in your feed. That's the insidious nature of social media. And so now every time I get fed a Premier Collectibles ad, it's like a knife in the guts as I see more and more bands who are signing with them. What's really interesting, and I didn't tell you about this beforehand, if you read the comments under these posts, without fail, the comments are, "This is too expensive."
So the more you keep clicking these ads, you're basically becoming like a music cuck, like just watching you're watching this thing you covet with someone else. It's actually kind of sad. I feel bad for you. These are two bands I know. I know the names. I mean, I would have selfishly no desire to deal with metal. Like, I'm not a fan of that at all. If the money was right, I sign me up. But I mean,
so I would deal in metal, even just because the metal fans are so insanely devoted. It's easy money. In fact, of all the bands that I listed, so I listed Avril Lavigne, Simple Plan, Offspring, Exodus, and I think there was one more, Third Eye Blind. The only one who sold out of an allocation was Exodus, the metal band. So, I mean, metal fans are just very devoted. And again, I think there's real opportunity here to get metal bands to do signings. I'd love to do it. If anyone knows any metal bands or is involved, maybe secretly a member of a metal band is listening, I would love to work out a signing. Did I ever tell you that a girl in my class, her father, a couple years ago, is actually a member of a fairly well-known metal band that I'm not going to say on the air, but yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, there's your chance.
Yeah, I'm not doing that because that's the crossing, boundaries. But I do think it's interesting. And when I heard the name, I was like, oh my god! And then, yeah, we had a whole conversation about it. And I was talking to her, and she was like, yeah, my dad wants to like teach me audio production, like teach me songwriting. And I'm like, if you don't take advantage of this, you're a fool. No one has this opportunity. This is incredibly rare. It's a gift. So just, even if you're not the most into it, smile and nod and get something out of it, because how many people have that experience? So hopefully she heeded that. I have no idea. I think, I don't know. She's a senior now. She's going to be a senior now. So anyway, I told them she was a freshman. I digress. We had Photo With Friday. again this week. There's two funny ones. So first, first one's not that funny. I picked this one because I'm just about finishing up a Sopranos rewatch, and so Terrence posted a photo with Silvio Dante himself, Stevie V. So that was pretty cool. And then in a weird bit of serendipity that I my brain still has not processed yet, but but our dear friend Ira posted a photo with Julian McMahon from Nip Tuck, and then later on that day, it was probably an hour or two after he posted that photo, it was announced publicly that Julian McMahon had died. Sounds terrible that we're laughing about this, but the sequence of events is absurd.
I mean, as Greg 2600 referred to him as, he is the Grim Nobbler, and I'm just waiting to see who Ira's going to kill next week.
Who Ira will take with him. I mean, yeah, it's what a weird thing, Ira posted, and Julian McMahon. I love Nip Tuck. I never got him. It seemed that everyone else did on Marked Out. I saw so many pictures go up of him after the fact.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I got him. I honestly couldn't remember the circumstances of when I got him. I thought it was during TV week, but then CM Showstopper reminded me last night that I was with him when this happened. This was that crazy day which this is a flashback report for you. We had some sort of intel that we thought Joseph Morgan from the Vampire Diaries and the originals, we thought he was going to be attending a play to see his friend who was starring in it. So we went in to basically stalk that play on the chance it sounds insane even saying it, was going to show up and attend the play. And shocker of all shockers, he didn't attend the play. So that was a bust, but we did get Julian McMahon at a hotel that we thought Joseph Morgan would be at. And then we ended up pivoting and getting Chris Hemsworth, who was in town for Saturday Night Live. So we went to the Saturday Night Live hotel and got him coming back from rehearsals, which honestly, I mean, turned it into a pretty good day. But I mean, the entire foundation of that day was just riddled in just mental illness. Like, why would I think that was really going to happen to give up an entire day chasing it? But
what an interesting name to go all out for. Joe, if you asked me if I would pay, $10 for Joseph Morgan, I'd be like, nah, I'm good.
Well, I really liked that show, and I still don't have him, which is frustrating because he fell into that creation bubble, and I just never wanted to deal with it, which I probably should have. And now I don't know what he does, so I still don't have him.
Maybe he's dying.
Could be. If Ira posts it, he will die.
Yeah, he will die. But it was such a weird timing because Ira posted it, and then his death was announced very quickly thereafter, and then it became a question. It's like, wait, did Ira know he was dead, and that's why? But Ira swears it was a total coincidence. So it's just fascinating.
There's nobody else in the entire world this could happen to besides Ira. Like,
it's true. What a funny thing. Not to make light of someone's death, but it's just that the circumstances they're just preposterous. So anyway, if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason at all, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join and participate in the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. And if you want your event, product, or brand advertised on episodes of Marked Out Radio, please reach out to us today at markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe. Or hell, even if you don't, even if you're hate listening right now, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast and leave us a rating or review. You can leave a rating and or review on Apple Podcast. You can leave a rating on Spotify, or you can leave a comment, thumbs up or thumbs down on YouTube. All engagement is highly encouraged. So this brings us to our main topic of the show, which I was like, every time you were doing this before, I was like, will you just please wait until we actually talk about this? Because you for some reason, you couldn't resist. You were on fire today talking about this topic. And the topic is con loyalty. We've seen a lot of stuff this week, but also stuff in the past about people who are loyal to a particular con or to a particular con owner. We talked about vendor loyalty in the past, but this is a little bit different. People who defend the honor of a con, or people who, or people who, put themselves out there as fans of a con specifically, as opposed to the guests who that con brings in. So, I mean, let's launch right into this. I guess let's talk about the context, because we didn't, that's not one of the bullets here, but let's talk about the context. Why are we talking about this now?
I think it's extremely timely right now, because you have the Parsippany Wars with the chill out versus chiller, and there was a lot of pushback on that, with certain people feeling like it's an unclimbable mountain. Like, how could you oppose chiller? Their fans are so loyal. It doesn't matter who you bring in. They're not going to miss chiller, or they're not going to support chiller's competition. And I just don't really understand that kind of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, there's that, the people who are claiming they're loyal to chiller, so they won't go to chill out, or they're loyal to Tom Unger, and so they go there instead of chiller. There's that. There's also, I mean, the other context for this is the Steel City stuff, where, we caught a lot of shrapnel for not for, I mean, even though it was someone else posting on our behalf, at the end of the day, it was still our opinion that the Steel City lineup was not great. And there are people who like really took it to heart and got offended. Not that they had a different opinion than us, but they actually got offended that we didn't like the lineup for Steel City, as if having an opinion is somehow a bad thing, or whatever. And so these are the two pieces of context. So I guess, broadly speaking, why do you think people are loyal to cons?
I would like to think people are loyal to cons because they are smart enough to be aware of the reality that if a con isn't supported in their area, they may not have a con in their area. But I think, honestly, it's more pathetic than that. I think for a lot of these people, I think they want to they think if you're, let's just use, I'm going to use Monster Mania as my example here, because I don't know Steel City's like hierarchy like that. But if you're on the group and you're loyal and you're saying how Monster Mania is great, and it doesn't matter if their headliner is the person that put makeup on Chucky, and it doesn't matter how weak the lineup might be, but Monster Mania is awesome, that maybe when you're walking down the hall of the con, maybe Dave will give you a nod. Maybe he'll pat you on the back as he's passing you by. And, maybe that means that you're in and you're friends, and it's the parasocial relationship. I think it's a lot of that it's just like, I think it also falls into tribalism. Like in politics, why do people like, politicians almost more than the ideas? Why do they like sports teams in spite of, it's all of that. I think that's just the way it falls in for this as well. What's your take on it?
Part of it is parasocial. I think part of it, though, cons, especially cons like Monster Mania. All right, Monster Mania has grown a lot, but initially Monster Mania and Chiller, those cons, people go there, they stay in the hotel, therefore they make groups of friends, and the same people go to the same shows all the time. So those shows do a really good job building communities. Like, there's no community built around New York Comic Con. There's this 35,000 people just descending on New York City for New York Comic Con. This is not that. Monster Mania, the early shows where there was, 1,000 people, 800 people, whatever it was, Chiller, those numbers, the people would be staying in the hotel. They would see each other. They would drink in the bar in the evening. People would develop, stories. And, oh, remember that time you hung out at the bar and got hit on by Felissa Rose? Whatever. That didn't happen. I'm just saying, whatever. Things happen. And it kind of develops, for lack of a better word, a lore, a story behind these cons that transcends the con itself. Like the people who go at Chiller, they have like those nighttime karaoke sessions, or Monster Mania. They used to have the midnight showings of Rocky Horror, where people, tell you, that auditorium was packed. I went
I'm saying you were kind of closer to that inner circle of Monster Mania than I ever was. You would make weekends out of it.
I really, really liked going to Monster Mania. I liked going to the auction on Sundays. I liked, I would devote a day to the vendor room. I would vote. There was Monster Mania. So the way I would do Monster Mania years ago, I would do all the guests on Friday. Saturday, I would do all the panels. And Sunday, I would do the auction and then go home. It was a whole weekend. It was a blast. I had so much fun. It built a sense of community. What kind of stripped it away for me was as the show got bigger and bigger and bigger, I had a hard time. The events weren't as fun. So the lines got longer. The auction, it was impossible to get in, or the stuff wasn't as good, or the bidding prices got too high, or you couldn't get all the guests on Friday because they'd have a headliner or a VIP. That's just the shows changed and they became more commercial, and so my interest as an event as opposed to just a transaction changed as well. And so for me, I was very loyal. I used to say to you, why the hell don't you go to Monster Mania? It's such a fun show.
You did. You were always saying that.
I would go to Monster Mania even if I didn't care who the guests were, and I would truthfully, I would watch the movie. So like when they had a Texas Chainsaw Massacre reunion, I wasn't a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy. I watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, the original, leading up to the con to get me pumped about it. Then I went and I met the whole cast, and I went to see the Q&A thing, and it was a blast. And then I ended up becoming a fan of stuff that I wasn't a fan of before. That, let's be honest, that feel, maybe I've changed too, but to me that feel is unattainable today when it comes to cons.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different, obviously. That sounds like intimate. Although, I mean, listen, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is good and all, but it's got nothing on the Mark Burnham version, which we have some stuff still left and available. But yeah, like the whole, I understand the concept of the little like intimate community. Although I would argue that I'm sure there is some community within NYCC, even within the 35,000. I would imagine that would mostly be in the cosplay world, but I'm sure there's groups of people that stay in the same hotel.
It's just not the same. It's not the same. Monster Mania, when it back in 2008, 2007, these are very intimate shows.
Yeah, I'm saying it was all inside jokes and like, diehard community. In these other bigger shows, it's like there's little like smatterings of it, but that was all. I get that. But I mean, at what point like you stopped going to those shows like that? I feel like you would probably kill yourself now if you were forced to live Monster Mania the way you used to with 3 days.
I will tell you this. What changed Monster Mania for me personally was I couldn't get all my autographs on Friday because the lines were too long. I want to say, I can't remember what year it was, but I forget who the headliner was or whatever. I couldn't get them all on Friday, so I had to get some guests on Saturday. When I finished my guests on Saturday, I tried to do what I normally do and go to the panel room, and the panel room was completely full. And I was like, well, what the hell? What am I going to do now? And so I left, and I got lunch, and I came back later to try and get into a later panel, completely full. And I said, what am I doing? I can't even get into the panel room. And it's completely blocked off. What am I supposed to do? It's too crowded. I couldn't get into the panel room. The whole reason why I was here, we're not going to camp to get in the panel room. That's ridiculous. And so I was pissed. And then I remember there was one year I went into the I used to buy stuff from the auction every year. One year I go in to the auction and it's like stupid stuff, and there were people purposely bidding a ton of extra money because it's for charity for the the Yorkies or whatever, the dogs. And I got in there and I was like, what am I doing? I'm not gonna buy anything here. I'm gonna pay a super high amount of money. And of course it's much harder for them to get stuff donated for the auction now because the big name guests are a little bit more hesitant to do it. But it's just not the same. It's not the same. And so a lot of the stuff did change, but specifically mine not being able to get into the Q&A room, the panel room, it changed the whole calculus for me. I was really turned off by it.
So do you think that initial level of loyalty, do you think that was like sort of crazy and misguided, or was it simply a consumer supporting and attending what you enjoyed, and the second it changed to the point that you couldn't enjoy it in the ways you did previously, that you just changed your habits?
Well, see, that's the question, right? Because I don't think it was loyalty in the way that we're using it with people, for example, on the Steel City group who complained that we criticized the lineup. I was loyal to the show because the show showed me a good time. The moment it stopped showing me a good time, I changed the way I interacted with it, and I changed the way I attended.
Yeah,
that's how I am. I'm certainly not gonna continue doing something that I don't like, or I'm not gonna twist myself in knots to pretend that I do like something that I don't like for the sake of loyalty to a show. That's just doesn't make any sense. There were years where I skipped New York Comic Con, and if New York Comic Con had a sucky lineup, I would skip it. And I would sell my tickets. I don't care. And there's no loyalty for me in that way. Doesn't mean anything. And if a lineup isn't good, I'm going to criticize it. If something happens at a show that I don't like, I'm going to say something. Am I a loyal customer of Twin Cities Comics? You could argue. I've used them a lot of times. I'm going to send them an email when this recording is done, complaining I don't like the way I was treated. I don't care. So that's how I feel about it. So I mean, I guess the question is, though, the people who defend shows even when they're wrong, how do you explain that?
Well, here's the reality. I think probably for some of the people, I think we look at the defense like we see, like in our eye, we see people defending a show that is weak, and I at least for me, I think like you sometimes forget that maybe they just simply don't see it that way. And I know for a fact I've debated. I think there was some show that Greg 2600 thought sucked. And I thought the lineup was good. I think actually this New York Comic Con, Greg 2600 is like on record saying that he's not a fan of this initial lineup. He needs 2 people. And I countered and said to him how he's one of the more like robust attendees of shows. And for him to not need a lot of people is sort of inevitable because he's everywhere. So, I mean, I guess in that sense, am I being an NYCC loyalist to actually waste my breath defending someone criticizing? So
You do this thing that I don't do, where you go, XYZ is an objectively good lineup, even if I don't need the people. And like someone like Greg 2600 will not do that.
Yeah, he's strictly what he needs.
Right. And so I'm much more like with Greg than with you on this. I see, for example, Randy Quaid at Chiller, and I roll my eyes a little bit, knowing how much Quaid has been in this area. I'm not going to say he's an objectively good. I think he's a whatever booking rather than objectively good.
But what is this area? Where has he been in this area?
Monstermania.
That was over a year ago, and that was like an hour and a half down the road. I don't know if I'd really call that this area.
I mean, for the name of that size, these are the shows he'd be. He's at Monstermania. He was at Rhode Island. He was at Steel City. He was at Steel City twice.
I mean, Steel City and Chiller are different countries. I'm not, that's a whole different thing. But I get what you're saying. You just view it like Greg, more to cut and dry. What do I need? I try to look. I'm not really sure which way is the more rational way of looking at it. But
who's what do you call? Who's bringing Chevy? Steel City's bringing Chevy again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Chevy's coming in again, but Chevy is a different level draw than Randy. So I'm able to look at Chevy and say, "Oh, you want to bring Chevy in every show? Sure, why not? He'll do business every show." I get it. I'm not gonna defend the show doing that. I think it's lazy, but I get it. I'm gonna be honest. I think Monstermania bringing in Arquette is a little lazy. Doing the Scream reunion again. I mean, Arquette just did the show not that long ago. Arquette's been around the horn a lot. recently. He did 90s Con. He's been around, and he's lazy. But I know he'll do numbers. He always does. So I get it.
Yeah, that's the reality. Scream, unlike other horror franchises, they can get the vast majority of the people out. They can't get Courtney, they can't get Drew, but I mean, the vast majority are alive. They still do business, and it's every time a show would book, like even like a Lillard or a Skeet, it's lazy. It doesn't mean it's bad, but it's definitely lazy. There's no imagination there. There's no creativity. There's nothing fresh. But I guess if you're fans and loyalists are happy, I guess that's what matters. But then you have a whole new thing that has come about now in the Facebook era, where we have these fan groups, the fans of Terrific Con, Steel City fans, Monster Mania fans. Are these communities for people to sort of keep up on the news and happenings of their favorite show, or just one of their favorite shows? Or is this literally what it says? Are you becoming a fan of this convention the way you're a fan of your favorite movie? And is that healthy, if so?
I forgot to actually put Chiller Theater fans on this list as well. No, I think these groups are mostly toxic. You look, one of the things that's true is that these cons have tremendous overlap. And look, I'm a member of all of these stupid groups just to see what's going on. And so the Chiller group, for example, has a rule: you can't post any information about any other shows and any other appearances or whatever. So someone will post hey, Steel City booked this guy. Can he come to Chiller too? And they'll delete it. Stuff like that. And, their singular mission is the success of a particular show rather than the success of the community. And usually these people are too short-sighted to understand that those things are intimately connected with each other. That's why you get very, rigid rules when it comes to them. But I mean, look, just take one look at how the Steel City fans reacted to very mild criticism of Steel City's lineup, and you'll see exactly why these groups are kind of stupid. I mean, you have people arguing aggressively that Dave Coulier is a con headliner. And I don't know really, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know how to respond to that, because it's just not true. He's just not. And I mean, again, you could put anyone as a headliner. You could put me as a headliner. He's not going to draw as a headliner,
Well, I think the issue is, for people that are not as deranged as us, they don't really look at it the way we look at it. For them, if they were you, they would happily call Smart a headliner, because you are traveling 7.5 hours each way to get her.
She's not a headliner.
I understand, but I'm saying for them, they don't look at it that way. A headliner is who is the top name you're excited to meet. And if they're excited to meet Dave Coulier, which I would have been as well if I didn't already get him, you're excited, that's a headliner. So I think for a lot of them, they don't even understand really what the terminology is. What does that mean? What is the emphasis for a headliner? What's expected of a headliner? All of those things.
To me, Dave Coulier could headline a B show like Chiller. He shouldn't be or a C show. He should not be headlining an A- show like Steel City. These big convention center shows.
To be fair, I don't think they're not even trying to say Dave Coulier is really headlining, because they're not selling a Dave Coulier VIP.
The fans.
Yeah, okay, I agree. But
I mean, I don't even really know who. I mean, you could argue. If I were arguing, I would say the headliner of Steel City is Chevy, right? That's what I would say.
Steel City?
Yeah.
He's not at Steel City.
I thought he is. You just said he was.
No, Chevy's at Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. That's So I'm looking at the headliners of Steel. So I'm looking at Steel City. So is John Bernthal? I mean, let's genuinely look at this. I have this page up right now. Is John Bernthal a con headliner in 2025?
I've heard a lot of people argue that the big headline is you have two people that played Punisher at the same show. So you have Thomas Jane and John Bernthal, and you can get a Punisher group up. I don't think that's a headlining reunion. But I mean, I'm not a Punisher nut. Maybe if you love Punisher, you would.
Both of those iterations of Punisher were commercial failures. Both of them. So I don't get it. Mike Tyson at this point I don't think could headline a show. I think he was a headliner a few years ago, but he's been so oversaturated that he's just not going to draw. David Wenham, not a headliner. Full House reunion, maybe the reunion collectively could be called a headliner, but I don't think any of the individual people could be called a headliner.
I think it's gonna do better than maybe our logic would tell us. The same way I think Randy Quaid will do a little better at Chiller because it's fresh for that market. This is fresh for this market, and I think
so. Here's a good example. Here's a good example. John Cusack, headliner or no?
Absolutely not.
Headliner for Chiller?
I don't even think he was that. When we got him at Chiller, there wasn't very much hullabaloo.
But I would call him a headline level guest for Chiller.
Sure.
Not for Steel. I mean, you look at the budget for Steel compared to Chiller. Yeah, it's just not a great. I mean, it's just not. I don't know what to say.
They're gonna be leaning on the Baldur's Gate, which I mean, that's something I don't understand, but I know it always is. It's popular enough, and they're gonna be leaning on Full House.
Full House.
And that's fine. That is absolutely fine. We are driving for the kids from Jurassic Park that are now middle-aged, which that whole thing is this, time is a cruel, cruel mistress, and smart. So, I mean, we're insane. We're still traveling for all that. But it's just the idea that you could see someone like that guy, which, I mean, he posts a screenshot of our podcast and sort of echoes our sentiments, and they get so worked up. Like,
right, who get crazy.
A rational response would be honestly no response. Or if you must say something, to me, it's a fun lineup. I'm excited to meet X, Y, and Z. There's no need to,
Well, no, but that's not the argument that people were making. People were making the argument that it was an objectively good lineup. Or the worst argument, which is if you don't like it, shut up about it. A bunch of people were like that.
I agree. I'm saying what would be a normal response. If we're not, that's not what happened. But I'm saying if you were going to be a normal community on a a Facebook group talking about a show just objectively, that's what you would say. Well, I disagree. Lineup's good for me. I'm excited for to get that angry and get upset that anyone could have a differing opinion of this lineup's quality is just toxic. Like you said, like why do you care that much? And a lot of these people that run these groups, like the people that run the Chiller group, for example.
Oh, they're nuts.
I may be wrong, but I don't believe they have any financial stake in that show. They're not like silent partners. They're nothing. So they're deleting any mention of a Steel City guest or NYCC guest. For what reason? So does Kevin give them a hug when he's sitting out in his wheelchair in the lobby for the entire weekend?
It's the sense of community. They have a sense of belonging. And I get it. I do. I understand that people have this craving for a sense of belonging. I understand this. This is a normal human thing. At the same time, you're giving these people money, and it's a business relationship. And as such, what you never want to do, and I think this is what it boils down to. What you never want to do in a business relationship is make someone believe they don't have to work to earn your dollar. I never, ever, ever want anyone I'm doing business with to believe that I'll just pay them even if they do a bad job, right? It's kind of like politicians and voting. You never want to get to a place as a voter where a politician believes they can rely on you reliably to vote without having to do something to earn that vote. That's a very, very dangerous place to be, right? Because that just means that someone can follow their own interests and they know you're going to go along for the ride no matter what. That's like with these cons, right? I mean, not for nothing, I have a feeling, unless some of these costs are not what I think they are, the budget for this show is low, and that's definitely a trade-off. It's definitely a trade-off. You're not getting the kinds of guests that you could otherwise get. Look, even someone. So I mean, I don't know. We talked about this. So someone on the Steel City group after Tom Unger posted the Brad Garrett thing, right? Someone on the Steel City group posted Tom's announcement and said, "Why don't we get someone like Brad Garrett? He's a bigger name than anyone on Steel City." And the Steel City Con itself replied to that post and said that con is covering the nut, more or less, and we don't want to take that risk. That's a fair synopsis, right?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing to say out loud, because if there's anything Steel City has been willing to do historically is cover the nut. That's what they're infamous for. That's how they got Randy Quaid out of the mothballs to begin with, was covering the nut.
No, it's fascinating, and just tying into what you said, because I think you're entirely right. You have, if you take away any emphasis, I think for a while their NYCC had fallen into that sort of a hole where they knew they were selling out for a multitude of reasons, and it didn't really matter who they booked. There were a couple of years it was kind of weak, and that's when we all sort of assumed that they were just never going to be a premier show again in terms of the celebrities, and for whatever reason that changed. And going back, just pivoting back to Chiller and Chill Out, I genuinely like Tom Unger. I've seen and known Tom Unger in like business settings for years. But I mean, if he didn't book a single name I needed, I wouldn't just go to Chill Out just to, run around Chill Out and say I'm here. Like, it has to be a name I need to go there. Like, that's where, to me, I don't understand. Like, if they have names you want and you want to see the person that you know and who's always done right by you succeed, by all means. But I mean, if you're just going to blindly, if Tom Unger booked like Brady Bunch stunt doubles and Mason Reese and said, this is a Chill Out lineup, I'm not going to be, and I'm not going to go post and sit on this podcast and tell you it's the greatest lineup ever because I want to see Tom Unger succeed. That would be delusional. That would be insane. So I don't personally get that. You want the stunt doubles?
No, that's not my confession. My confession is towards the end of the run for Cinemania. It wasn't maybe not their last show. I don't think, maybe the next to last show. I just didn't need any of the guests. I just didn't need them at all. And so I emailed them or Facebooked them or what, I don't remember. And I was like, listen, I've bought all those super tickets before. I don't really need any of the guests at all. But I do enjoy coming to your show. I don't want to sit out. I can come and work the show if you want. So at least I can go and hang out, whatever. And so I did actually go to one of the Cinemania shows and quote unquote work the show. Do you remember this or no?
Holy crap, I do.
And so
that was actually demented on your part. That's pretty bad.
I did. And I worked the super ticket line for Mae Young that time. I was her handler. And I also worked it for Mickey James. There were three people I helped handle anyway. Mickey James, Mae Young, and the Boogeyman. And I got photos with all three, so I wasn't empty-handed, in a manner of speaking. But I mean, working Mae Young was hilarious, so it was like, just for the experience. But I did do that, so I am guilty of this. But wanting to go and just hang out and see the people who I like to see. But I didn't want to pay. I didn't want to pay because I didn't need anything, And and those guys, and it's funny because those guys understood that I had spent a lot of money with them in the past, and I imagine they knew that if something good came up in the future, I would not hesitate in spending money again, and there's no harm in letting me do it. So they did. But it is an interesting, weird behavior on my part. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. But look on the bright side. George is now a proud owner of an alligator, so. He could have fed you to his pet gator if you didn't support all those years. No, in all seriousness, Cinemania crew were always great. George is a great guy.
Do you think? I know there are people who've expressed skepticism that Chiller devotees will simply not go to Tom's show out of loyalty to Chiller. Do you think that's the case? I don't care about you or me.
Yeah,
we know what we're gonna do. I mean, people. How do you think the people will behave?
I think the lunatics that run the Chiller group, those people, I'll probably be banned from a second fan community by the end of this week. But I think those people probably wouldn't. I think there's probably a couple others out there like them, probably more than a couple. But I mean, I don't know how many people really attend an average chiller in a weekend, but I mean, I couldn't imagine more than 10% would be that stupid. If Tom books the names he told me he's booking, if nothing changes or falls through, if he has a lineup that is what we're expecting him to have, I don't imagine you'd have more than 10%. I think that's even on the high end. I think the majority of the people would go to both, especially since Tom is charging $10. I mean,
but there are those people, plenty of them, who attend the chiller but don't actually pay any of the guests. They just walk around.
I mean, listen, I feel like Mikey Icon can go walk around at a chill out show and try to get free photos just the same. You can still kind of, graze and just roam around.
So you don't think that Chiller will retain, or there'll be some percentage there that will be retained because of loyalty?
I think there will be a percentage. I think it'll be a small percentage. I don't think it's a percentage to a level that is going to really impact Tom's bottom line. I think more people would feel the way I feel, that you could have, let's say Tom doesn't hit this ball out of the park like I think he's going to. Let's imagine Tom just gets a nice double down the line. And let's say Chiller has a couple people you want. I think you could argue Tom will help Chiller by giving people more reason to go to Parsippany, New Jersey. I go to Parsippany, I get who I need at Tom's show, and then I mosey on across the street, and I get the handful I need at Chiller. Maybe it wasn't good enough to get me to Parsippany otherwise, but maybe with the combination it is. So I think that would account for any of the loyalists that he would lose. I think it would still be a net win for both shows.
So I guess last word on loyalty. Are there any cons you're loyal to, or do you have a message for people who are loyal to cons?
I mean, in terms of geographics, I want Big Event to succeed because it's 15 minutes from my house. I want New York Comic Con to succeed because it's a show I can go to 2-3 days without needing a hotel room. Would I go to New York Comic Con out of loyalty and spend thousands of dollars for people I don't need? No, I wouldn't. But I mean, I want to see it succeed. I don't know how. I think my actions wouldn't really be changed as a result of that desire. But I mean, same with Big Event. I'm not going to Big Event to support all the vendors bringing people in I don't need just so it keeps happening. I'm not going to put my money where my mouth is, as promoters would tell fans to do on Marked Out like 20 years ago. But I mean, I root for them. I would, maybe I'll share posts out with a little more gusto because I would like to see it succeed. But I mean, I wouldn't go martyr myself and spend thousands just to help them reach that point. How about you?
So here's what I would say to people. I would say you should not be loyal to these cons because they are not loyal to you. At the end of the day, they exist to make money. And therefore, you need to make sure to understand in your head that this is a business relationship. And so if they're not meeting if a show meets all of your needs as a customer, of course you should continue to attend that show and support them and whatever. But going to war for a show on social media or defending a show on social media is strange behavior, because at the end of the day, the show is a money-making entity that is profiting off of you. It is not a charity. It is not something that it exists for the betterment of humanity. That's not why these things exist. There are shows that used to, or that have historically been run as nonprofits. They don't exist anymore. I think the last one was the one that used to run out of Stony Brook, the Sci-Fi Con, at a Stony Brook was a nonprofit, and there was a Star Trek con, one of them that was a nonprofit as well.
I was gonna say Jason Blaustein's run several nonprofits, but I mean,
It's not what I
those
mean.
weren't intentional.
Yeah.
But I know I already made my closing remark, but I have one more just point I want to throw out there. I think for a lot of these people, what we also don't maybe take into account is they love meeting celebrities. And I think for some of these people with just, it's a mix. I think for some of them, I think they're probably too ill physically and mentally to travel around the country. And I think on the flip side, they could also be not ill enough to travel around the country to do this. So for them, I think it's the fear of their show that they can attend conveniently and safely and whatever. If that ceases existing, so does their ability to meet celebrities. I think for us, we can be a little more flippant and, they have to earn our business because we go Pittsburgh to Providence with comfort on a yearly basis, which is really just mental. So I think for us, it's a little easier sometimes to have that feeling. I mean, we've all been there that where like you go to a con that you're going to anyway, like me now at Steel City, where I'm like, well, I don't really need to go here, but let me see how I can make this better. So I think for some of these people, that's what it comes down to. This is my show. I can't attend Steel City, so I'm going to make the best of this so I can keep having a show to go to every year. So I get
it. I mean,
yeah,
that's why we're trying to convince ourselves that Eternal Con at Hofstra is not going to be an absolute disaster, right? Because it's so close that we want it to be good. Yeah, and we all. I think part of being an educated consumer is resisting those very real, natural human impulses that compel you to sometimes make bad decisions. So, and honestly, hold these people accountable. The shows will become better when they're held accountable. That's just a fact. When the fans hold the shows accountable, the shows become better. Hold them accountable. Don't be blindly loyal to things.
I think there's a chance. I mean, Quaid isn't really going to drive that home, but I think there's a chance Chiller is going to deliver in a way they haven't since they sort of pushed Tom out the door to compete with Tom. If you waltz out a shitty lineup, I mean, you might start losing people to Chill Out that aren't going to do both. Maybe they just do one. So
I'm actively rooting for Chiller to pull out an incredible lineup. I'd love them to do that.
Yeah, I think both. I think if Chill Out and Chiller both have incredible lineups, I mean, awesome. Worst case scenario, we do 2 days. If somehow both shows were so stacked, we couldn't do one. I don't think that'll be the case. I bet you could do them both in one day. But I mean, listen, I'm rooting for just successful, good lineups. I'm not going to be loyal to anyone.
So what's coming up for us? So speaking of shows that we probably shouldn't be going to, but we are, we have Eternal Con. Do you have any doubts about Eternal Con or any hesitations, or are you in still?
I'm in. It's one of those types of shows where, I mean, you're dealing with, my main want is Vito from The Sopranos, who is not a con name. So I mean, is he going to be 2 hours late? Who the hell knows? So like, I'd be lying if I said I'm a little apprehensive about it, but I mean, it's close enough. We'll get a ticket off Groupon. I'm sure they'll be doing that per usual. I actually
noticed they're advertising discounted tickets. I meant to tell you so on their main page, actually. So, and what about that Long Island Tropic Con? You were in? Are you still in?
It's the same weekend as Monster Mania, and now we're pretty much in for Monster Mania, so it depends. It depends if I can do Sunday Tropicon, if I feel confident enough that Rocco will still be there on Sunday. Because this is the kind of show where if they sit around and, do nothing on Saturday, they could just get up and leave.
That's correct.
So, I mean, it'll be a game time decision because there would be few things worse for me than getting there, paying $30, walking in and finding the booths empty. I would be beside myself that I wasted $30 when I'll go to a convention and waste thousands of dollars without any sort of regret.
There you go. You still have David Wright coming up. When is that?
That is next Sunday, I
Oh, so
believe.
it's soon. All right, there you go.
I gotta figure out what inscription I'm going with. I already bought it. I just don't know which one I want to do. Got to figure it out.
And we are locked in for Steel City. The hotel has been acquired. We've done all the driving arrangements, so we're even though that show's not for over a month or about a month, we're now planned and ready to go. I have a consignment coming with me as well, which is rare, but that's how it goes. So I'm super excited for Steel City. It looks like Monster Mania is a go. I mean, that can change, but we'll see what hopefully Dave pulls a rabbit out of his hat and something, make something even more attractive for me. New York Comic Con is a given. I mean, I've had my New York Comic Con tickets for a minute now. You have yours, so we're locked in regardless. Chill out. You're committed to chill out already because of Brad Garrett.
Absolutely. And
That's
you were with me when you got Raymond, right?
I did. I was with you. But that was the day we got Pink. Remember?
Yeah.
It was Pink. It was Pink, Ray Romano, and John Leguizamo that day.
Listen, I'm a Everybody Loves Raymond guy, even though I think I misnamed the show a few weeks back. So, yeah, but I'm in for Garrett. Like I said, if that was it, if it was Garrett and Shatner and nobody else, I'd go get Garrett. I'd go next door to Chiller and get who I needed over there, which there's always a handful I would like to get at Chiller, and I'd be happy. So Brad's enough to get me there.
And RICC, I mean, obviously it's not until November, but they still have a million names. They still have a million names to go. But I mean, we haven't missed an RICC in a minute, and I'll continue supporting that show because they usually wind up dragging out 2 or 3 names that are just unbelievable names. RICC always comes up with something really interesting. I don't think they have quite yet, but the night is young.
I mean, Anthony Starr, if he actually shows up, will be pretty. He hasn't done something successfully in a while now.
That's true. That is true. All right, cool. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join and participate in the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. And so just to quickly run down the signings we have coming up, we have Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada coming up in the beginning of August. So if you want to get your pre-orders in, please do that. They're posted on markedoutcollectibles.com. We have our full WrestleCon lineup, 9 guests. We're very excited about all of it. It's going to be a crazy, crazy SummerSlam weekend at WrestleCon with Emily J, who's red hot. If you haven't seen Emily J yet, she is someone to watch in the next couple of years. Diamond Virago, another one, someone to watch. Tiara James, the Shooter Boys for Friday and in Edison, New Jersey. And for Saturday, of course, we have in the morning, 10 to 12, Swipe Right, Brad Baylor, Ricky Smokes. And in the afternoon, 12 to 2, we have Super Sean Legacy and the Carolina Reaper, Jackson Drake. Yeah, we have talked about those guys endlessly. I'm very excited. We
NXT
also have
Stars Vanity Project.
Yeah. Check out
on a weekly basis.
Tuesday. Yeah, they have a big match this Tuesday. At July 27th, PWJ Damaged Goods Part 2. We're signing with Zeta Steel, Marcus Mathers, Jackson Drake again, Smiley Kylie Ray, and Emily J again. Getting orders for those, please. Before time runs out. And then, of course, we have our private signing with Mike Tyson at the big event in November. Did I miss anything?
Absolutely not. That is quite the list.
Yeah. We have a couple other things, a couple other little private inventory things that coming up that are not, we can't really announce publicly yet, but some fun stuff, some interesting stuff that I've been getting ready for personally. So it looks like it'll be a busy summer.
As they almost always are.
It's funny. We start them out the same way. Not really much going on. All of a sudden, boom. And I think WrestleCon this year made this summer busier than it normally is. So I'm very excited to make it happen.
Likewise.
All right. So for markedout.com, mark.collectibles, mark.radio, I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
We'll see you guys next week.